We're here with the team from Signs of Humanity. Guys, introduce yourselves first, and then we'll tackle this wonderful documentary. Go ahead, Willie.
I'm Willie Baronet. I am co-director and producer.
Tim Chumley. I'm co-director and was DP and also the editor.
Judy.
Judy Birch-Gass, and I am the producer.
Eamon.
Eamon Downey, and I'm a producer as well.
Perfect. Guys, so, Willie, I know you've had this since the early 90s. This has been something that's been a passion for decades now. What was that initial moment, though, where you were like, this is a cause, a thing I've got to get to talk to people. I've got to, get to experience this and help people in a way. Where did this all begin from?
It really started just because I was uncomfortable when I saw people holding signs on the street. And in the beginning, I would offer to buy their signs as a way to start a conversation. It was a way in. And once that happened, there was no way in the early days that I had any idea this was going to turn into what it has turned into or become a documentary. But it wasn't until I went back to grad school in 2008 that I really started to take this, what at the time was a pretty big collection of signs, and start to treat this more seriously as an art project. And that's where it began. And then it sort of took off in 2014. Tim and Eamon and myself and one other person traveled across the country for 31 days buying signs. And that is the impetus for this documentary.
What made you guys start on the West Coast? What made you guys go that way? What was the impetus for that choice?
Tim.
Well, we probably mapped out 6 or 8 different routes and argued about every one and the merits of each. But we wanted to end in New York. That just seemed like that was something that we knew that we wanted to do. And so it made sense to cover as much ground as possible to start as far away from there as we could.
So I'm kind of curious, since you were filming this is taking on the road, so it's moving that equipment, but also you're dealing with people you're getting to meet right then as well. Like,
right.
How difficult was this process for you guys?
And to be clear, I want to make sure, Eamon shot a lot of this. Mm-hmm. Our camera person that we hired in Seattle that Eamon hooked us up with, Olivia, shot a ton of this. Willie shot, some, so we were all shooting it. And Eamon also had some experience. They produced a feature-length documentary, and so he was a little more experienced at that process than we were. But we were learning as we went, and Willie's worked in advertising for many years. I've produced a lot of short-length documentaries, so we had quite a bit of experience.
I'm kind of curious then, Willie, what was the difference in, because you obviously it starts conversations for you is one way. What has been the conversation that's just stuck with you the longest, maybe, or that moment where you were like, I could keep doing this? Was there that moment where you did meet someone that just, this is what you need to do?
Well, it's a combination of things. One, I really love the signs themselves, and I discovered that each one was very individual. And the second big takeaway for me was every time I'd have a conversation with somebody, that all of the stories that I had made up beforehand were often totally false. And so I started to realize that everybody had their own stories. They're on the streets for different reasons. And if I'm just open and willing to engage with them, I'll learn something about that person. So it's really the culmination of all of these stories together.
I'm kind of curious for you guys in the back, Judy, maybe this one is for you as well. You guys have started a production company, you guys have teamed up. What's made you work with Willie? What made you want to get on part of this process?
Well, at first I heard him do a TED Talk. He was a TEDx SMU speaker, and I was in the audience. And I remember writing in my program a big star. I didn't know him, but it was he was very impressive, and I was moved by the whole idea. I mean, the way everybody is when they hear about it. There's this guy who has collected over 1,000 signs. Who does that? And it was just so intriguing, and he did such a good job. And then 2 years later, I saw him at another event, and I said, "Oh, I remember you." And then he said he was doing this. He was planning to do this trip, and I said, "I'd like to help." I've worked on a couple of feature films, and I've raised money for feature films, and I said, maybe I can help you raise some money. And that was my role, but I was very changed in the process. It was a bigger role than just shaking the money tree. I mean, it changed me personally. It's been an amazing project, and we certainly hope the film has that effect on people as well.
Can we talk about it being connected to Dallas, SMU being there as well, and we're here in Dallas for Dallas International. I mean, that must be special. It must be nice to be right here in the epicenter of home.
I think we're all really excited that this is premiering at the Dallas International Film Festival. Some of it was just kismet. You know, we finished the film right at the perfect time when the entry was happening for this film festival. And yeah, there's something really perfect about it. I certainly bought the first probably couple of hundred signs were almost all from Dallas, Texas. So there is something very special about it being here.
Can you share some more of the signs with us?
Sure. And, you know, there's just so many. Tim, you guys can hold some signs up too.
Did you just pick signs from the trip?
This
Not all
one's my
from the
favorite.
trip. This one's actually from a man on the trip named Michael, who was in Las Vegas. And we did an interview with him, and he's actually in the documentary. We probably interviewed 150 or so folks on this cross-country trip, and it was really tough to decide who got to be in the documentary because there were just so many great stories. And like Judy said, I think Judy got her first encounter. She and Eamon were in a car following us in Portland, and Judy was thrust out to get the person to sign a release that we had just bought his sign. And she really had her first encounter with this man. She's told that story a few times. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Well, I didn't realize I thought I was going to be in the safety of the back seat. And then it turned out that they needed somebody to jump out and get the release. And I approached this man, shook his hand. He looked like somebody could have been in my family. And I was very moved. And we filled out the forms. And then Eamon was going around the block. And so after we filled out the forms, the gentleman crossed the street, and I was left where he was standing. And I remember thinking, I was waiting for Eamon, and I was thinking, I'm going to be killed here. There were so many cars, and I thought, this is where he stands. It was his vantage point. And then Eamon finally came, and I hopped in the car, and about 5 minutes later, I broke down crying. And Eamon, the filmmaker that he is, pulled out his cell phone. He was driving, and he tried to film me crying in the car, and I said, no, I haven't signed a release. And luckily it's not in the film, but it was quite a turning point. It was, and I still get emotional when I think about it.
It was a beautiful natural response.
Yeah, and the
to
mascara
the
was
experience.
the natural part was the mascara running down my face.
It was a powerfully emotional trip for a lot of us, and at various times along the trip, we all broke down. You know, that happened to me after Omaha and Michael. It happened for Eamon in San Diego after the Mary interview. And it happened with Willie in almost every city that we...
Every city, every car ride in between.
Right.
Yeah.
They said getting me to cry was like shooting fish in a barrel. And it's truly the connections with the folks that we met and the willingness that they had to share their stories with us and how much they connected to this project. Almost all of them immediately got why we were trying to make these signs visible, you know, in a society that often tries to hide these signs. And there were several interviews that just me personally just tore me up, just because they might have been my same age and we just had a connection. But there were a lot of them that moved me. And having done this for so many years, it's truly powerful when I got to see Eamon and Judy have an experience themselves and sort of realize that for people who don't do this all the time, it can be a very moving experience.
Obviously, this is just a step in the future of what you guys will continue to do for this. What is the next step? What are you guys hoping that people will gain from this. I mean, this has a potential to be something really nice and special. It's not just a moving documentary, but it makes you kind of want to go out and do something.
Talk about the impact campaign and.
Well, Eamon, why don't you share a little bit about
Yeah,
what is
absolutely.
happening in the next couple of months and with Maria?
Yeah, along the trip, a friend of mine texted me and said, "Hey, I have a contact for you that I think would be really into this project." I was like, "Sure, hook me up." And it was Maria Cuomo Cole, who is the chairwoman of Help USA, which is a phenomenal organization that does work across the United States, helping helping homeless folks, especially vets and young folks on the streets, and women on the streets, and children on the streets. So once she heard about this project, she immediately was connected to it. Her and I had a phone call, and then we connected her with Willie, and she wanted to be part of it in any way that she could. And she actually sponsored the show that we had in New York City, which was the culmination of this trip. And from there, she agreed that she wants to, be an impact campaign partner with us and take this exhibit to as many places as she can, including New York City, where she hopes to premiere the film, including at the Democratic National Convention. She has tons of big ideas. We're really honored to have her be part of this and help take these installations that Willie does, and he spends 12 to 24 hours on his hands and knees hanging these signs up. So I'm sure he's thrilled to have 12 or 24 more to do. But it's been great to have her as a partner and to hopefully bring this to as many cities as we can in the next year.
Wow.
And I think that we certainly are hoping that the film will be in other festivals, and at some point, our biggest hope, of course, is that it gets shown somewhere just for so that the maximum number of people can see it, whether that's some streaming service or whatever. But the hope is for the film to become more far-reaching, and then, as Eamon mentioned, the impact campaign, which could include curriculum that we develop so that if we speak at schools or organizations, we could talk about, either show snippets from the film or show other interviews that we've done that aren't in the film, and continue to just raise awareness in whatever ways we can.
Do you guys mind to kind of end things? Can we hold up some signs and?
Sure.
You got one?
Yeah.
Here, I'll hold a couple.
Okay. This was from San Diego on the trip. And I think that was from New York.
And I don't know if you can tell just how beautiful the background is on this one.
The color.
Mm-hmm.
That's from a man named Alan in Austin, Texas. So yeah, the signs are, as I said already, I'm just fascinated by them as artifacts, and the fact that each one represents somebody's story.
I think that's a perfect way to end it, guys. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having me.
Thanks a lot.